Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you tonight? Welcome to Thursday Talks at Heal Black Joy Podcast. I am your host and curator of Heal Black Joy, the learning platform for our communities to heal our Black joy with tangible and attainable programs for the mind, body, soul, relationships, and businesses. And tonight, our guest is Amirica Nicholson. She has been an avid student of mindset and the mental laws of success for 7 years. She is certified in neuro-linguistic programming, a form of mind training that uses everyday language patterns and behaviors to prime the subconscious mind for success. Amirica combines NLP, personal development, and quantitative performance indicators to help corporate professionals who aspire to become coaches and consultants to move from a state of fear, doubt, and indecision to a state of taking confident and consistent actions in their businesses through optimum productivity systems. Amirica has a professional background in the financial services industries and sales. You can find out more about Amirica through her Instagram, Amirica Nicholson, or Amirica the Mindset Coach, and her podcast, the Elevate Your Identity podcast, now streaming on Anchor, Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts platforms. And I am going to get her in. Hi, my dear. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am so good, man. I am so good. Happy 2022.
So I'm loving the hair, by the way.
I'm loving your hair and look, by the way. I think it's just the glow in you right now. So I know you got good things popping.
Thank you.
So we've been talking about all this week. We have been talking about all this month, rather. Can you see me? I think I was having some issues. We've been talking about healing Black joy through what we say, healing Black joy through what we think, as well as healing Black joy tonight is going to be through our environment. So it's very important when it comes to the success of us and how we cultivate our environment for that success, right? So how important is our environment to the success of a person?
Environment is tremendously successful. I would even say that you may not you may not have the skills, you may not have the knowledge, but if you have the right environment, you will automatically become successful by hanging around the right people. Because we as human beings, we conform. So it doesn't matter how much we believe that we are our own individuals, we have our own identities, yes, but you will conform to the environment that you stay in the longest, right? So
yeah,
it is so crucial to be in the right environment, to be in the right rooms, to be around the right people, because Jim Rohn states that you will become like the 5 people that you hang around the most, right? So it's important to be strategic about the people that you decide to be in proximity with, because those same people can be the reason that you prosper and that you are successful and happy, or they can be the same reason why you're depressed, why you're feeling down, and why you just can't seem to move and get out of the rut that you're in. So it's very important that we are critical and very selective and very strategic about the people that we hang around.
Yeah, that's important. That's good too, because what I've noticed, and this has been the continuity of conversation through all the 2 lives that I did in the previous weeks, and everybody is saying audit, edit, making sure that you're always cultivating not only what you're thinking, what you're speaking, as well as your environment, where you are, the people that you hang around. And last week, the Limitless lady stated that we need to audit audit frequently, like audit every quarter, she said there are seasons for a reason. So with that being said, when we're auditing, right? When we're auditing our ships, as she say, our relationships, our partnerships, our business ships, maybe our situationships. When we're doing that, what type of people should be in that environment?
That's good. That's good. Well, we should have a few people, right? So we should have a cheerleader or cheerleaders. We should have a coach. We should have peers/colleagues, and we should have friends. So the reason why we need to have, so I'll start off with peers and colleagues first. So peers and colleagues, these are the people that are like-minded. These are the people that we have common interests with in terms of being successful and wanting to thrive in life. These are the same people that we will find in masterminds or fellow coaching group programs. We need those people in order to continue to inspire us to move forward, right? Because as we continue to move forward as a group, we continue to thrive. Because we have that collective consciousness of, I want to be successful, I desire to move forward, I desire to be the best that I can be, right? So if you constantly have people in your environment that are echoing those thoughts to you, you have to become your best self, right?
Right.
Now, we also need cheerleaders. So these are the people that are in our lives, and they can uplift us and motivate us when we're feeling down. They can remind us of the power that we truly have, right? They're the people that we can go to when we're feeling at the lowest of the lows, and they can help to draw us back up. And that relationship needs to be mutual, right? So it can't be as if I'm consistently going to you at my lowest point, right? You can't come to me when you need that motivation. It needs to be mutual, or else you're going to have a rift in that relationship. Now, the third individual that we need in our lives are a coach. So the coach is someone that allows us to become our very best selves, right? Because they push us, right? They push us to become uncomfortable. They push us to go the extra leap. They push us to go the extra mile, right? And more than likely, they've been in the same position that we've been in, and they've achieved the success that we desire to achieve, right? So they have the substance in order for us to truly follow them and trust what they say, right? Because they have the receipts. And then finally, we need friends. So the friends are the people that know us at the core of who we are, and that we can just go to, right? Because yes, we want to be successful. Yes, we want to prosper. Yes, we want all of these things. But we need people around that we can just breathe, right? Just breathe, right? And we can let our guards down and just truly be all of who we are, right? And those are people that we need in our lives.
I like that you said the cheerleader, the coach, the colleague, and the friend. Who in that group of people is holding us accountable? I know the coach is holding us accountable, and I would assume the colleague is going to also be the person that's holding us accountable because we're like-minded, right? But are we looking to our friends as well as our support system, our cheerleaders, to hold us accountable as well?
No. So we only look for the cheerleaders as motivation and as support in a way, because here's the thing, and this is something that I was telling my therapist as well. Like, I only share parts of myself with people that are qualified, right? So, yeah.
That's big. You need to repeat that, because I think that's the quotable for tonight.
I only share the parts of myself with people that are qualified, right? Yeah. So, I'll give you an example of me. So I've always been this gung-ho, I want to be successful, top of my class person, right? And I had friends that were similar, but they didn't quite have that intensity, right? So if I got like a B on a test, right, and I wanted an A+, they weren't the people that I could really go to kind of be like, oh man, I got a B. Like, girl, you better be happy with me.
Right.
So we can't assume that everybody in our lives have the capacity to support us in the way that we want to be supported. That's why we compartmentalize people, right? Because a lot of times on the success journey will think I need to get rid of all these people that are in alignment with me. That's true to a certain extent. So if you have friends in your life that are bringing you down, that aren't helping you to move forward in a way, that aren't bringing any value, then you need to reassess that relationship, right? But if you have friends that maybe you want to be a successful entrepreneur, but they're happy with working the 9 to 5, they're happy with their income, they're happy with their salary, they're happy with having a boss, that doesn't mean that you throw them away. That just means that you put them in a particular department, right? So they can't necessarily hold you accountable for your entrepreneurship dreams and goals because they don't understand. And that's fine, right? Yeah. Cheerleaders, sometimes they can hold you accountable and sometimes they can't. So we really have to just be mindful of who we go to as a cheerleader. But in essence, they're just the people that you call when you just need an upliftment. Like you had a bad day and you need somebody to remind you of the amazing person that you are because they've known you and they've seen that part of you, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that they want to be who you want to be, but they know who you are. They know the light that you have to bring into the world. So they can remind you of that when you forget.
That's good. That's good, Amirica. I know this. When you were talking about these people, I can almost identify all these people in my life, right? But I know for me, I've probably blurred the lines for some of my folk because I've been the cheerleader, I've been the coach, I've been the friend, and I've also been the colleague. So can you talk to those of us who have that blurred line, who've been all of those things for someone?
So when you say blurred lines, you mean the act of having boundaries?
No, blurred lines in the sense that you've played that role because, for some people, those are going to be different people, right? But for others, they might have a friend who's also has the ability to coach. They have the friend who also has a business background. They also have, a colleague who has similar, thought processes and ideals and ways of wanting to achieve success. And they're also very supportive in the same sense. So that what I'm saying is, like, for someone like me, I've blurred the lines for some of my friends because I've been their cheerleader, I've been their coach, I've been their colleague as well as their friend. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get out of that where I'm not everything to everybody because, as you said, you want to only talk to people that is qualified to, talk to that particular situation. But I think for some of us, and this is just me, not only in my industry, but in the business world, in entrepreneurship, I'm networking with people that have had the same problem where they've been the cheerleader, they've been the friend, they've been the coach, they've been the colleague.
Great question. So I feel that when the lines are blurred and we are too many things to too many people, we tend to not be enough to ourselves, right? Because we want to support people in the way that they need to be supported, but in actuality, we're taking away from the support and the nurturing that we need, that we can only provide to ourselves. So I think that in that situation, in that scenario, we do need to create boundaries, right? So if people that are calling us when they're feeling down, if we have people that are calling us when they need support in business or in their career, if we have people that are calling us when they want to hang out, right? It becomes too much, right? So I think that in those scenarios, we really need to look at those relationships and really decipher how much can I give to these people or to this person, and have an open-ended conversation with them and say, hey, I know we've known each other for this long. I know that I've supported you in this way, but for my own mental wellness, I cannot support you in these particular categories anymore, right? So I can only be your friend. I can't be your coach. I can't be your colleague. I can only be your friend right now. And I think that as the relationship progresses, if we have the capacity to be more, we can be more. But if not, we need to leave it there. Yeah. So if they go for a business inquiry, hey, I'm sorry. Listen, unless you got an invoice for me, I can't help you.
Right. I had to learn that, because in our community, we were never taught boundaries. So because of me having the ability and having the knowledge base to be all of those things. I was being all of those things to a lot of different people, and I was burnt out, a few years ago. And what I did not realize is that I had not set any boundaries, not only for myself, but for others, because people will just come to you. If they feel like you have some sense of knowledge about something, they will come to you about everything. And I had to take a step back and say, you know what, Lola, you're not going to be effective, not only for your life, your daughter's life, your family, your friends, and you're not being effective if you're doing everything for everybody else and not doing anything for yourself. So that's key. That is super duper key, you guys, that you you have boundaries, clear boundaries in place when it comes to being these type of people.
And just to add to that, because one thing that is very vital and very crucial, especially if we are coaches or we consult in some magnitude, because a lot of times we'll have like family, we'll have friends that will come to us in our specialty, and they will just want information, right? But I think that what will truly help in those scenarios is really, it's not really tough love, but if we are coaches and consultants and we charge people that we don't know, then we need to start charging the people in our lives as well. Right. Not monetary gain per se, but just so that they will take the information that we give them seriously. And maybe they'll think twice before coming to us at the whim, because they know that it's a professional relationship.
It's a professional relationship. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're talking about environment, having a successful environment. What are key elements do we need to have a successful environment at home and or at work? Because as you know, what's going on now is this I saw something yesterday. It was this video that was put up where it was saying my coworker quit on our Zoom. And she was a Black girl. She got on the Zoom. He didn't show her face, but you could hear her talk. And she was just like, yeah, I'm coming back from having COVID, and you guys didn't call or anything like that. You guys sent an email. And I just wanted to let you know that I am done with your, working for you. Don't worry about me. I have another job, but I don't want to work at a company like yours because of the values that you've placed, that don't align with my values. And I thought that was interesting. And I'm starting to hear more and more conversations about Black women being apprehensive post, the pandemic, when the world started opening up again and people started going back to work. Our community were very apprehensive about going back to work because of the toxic environment, because of the microaggression, because of all these things that we're dealing with in corporate America, or even not in corporate America. So when you're talking about key elements to have a successful environment at home and or at work, what are some of those key elements? What are we looking for? What is it? What can we bring to that environment?
Great question. I think first and foremost, we need to tap into our own internal powers of feel, right? So when we're looking at working environments and we're looking at home environments, we first need to ask ourselves, how does this make me feel, right? Benefits, outside of the salary, outside of the bonuses, how do I feel, right? Do I feel stressed? Do I feel at peace? Do I feel anxious, right? And I think that we're starting to see a lot more of that, as you were saying, even with the Great Resignation. We have people that are quitting left and right because they're realizing that they have other outlets and other opportunities to gain income, right? So the first element that needs to be examined in terms of having a successful environment in work and at home would be the peace factor. Do I have peace, right? Because if you're in a constant state of feeling anxious, you're in a constant state of feeling overwhelmed, that's not a life to live.
Yeah.
Is this environment peaceful for me? When I come home, do I have peace? Right? When I go to work, do I have peace? Also, inspiration. So in the form of work, this can look like having mentors in your job that you can go to and you can talk to, right? Or having even coworkers that you can go to just get that inspiration, or having a person that's in a higher position than you, that you formed a relationship with, and you can kind of model the path that they took, right? They can inspire you to move forward. Because we as individuals, we as humans, we always need to strive towards some particular type of goal, right? There's a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, and he states that we have an internal success mechanism, meaning that whatever goal we give our minds, if we concentrate on that goal, if we stay focused on that goal, we will automatically become the type of person that we need to become in order to meet that goal, right? So we need that inspiration of the goal that we want to work towards, right? When we're at home, that inspiration can look like us having affirmations around our home, right, to remind us of who we are, right? That can look like us having pictures of the places that we visited or where we desire to visit, right, to keep the inspiration in our minds of what we're working towards, right? Also, we need a motivator. We need something that will continue to allow us to want to propel and to want to move forward, right? So at work, that can be that next promotion, or that can be hitting that sales quota, right? At home, that can really be the power that we have to speak to ourselves, right? So we can look at that motivator as the power that we always have to open up our mouths and to speak life into ourselves, right, on a daily basis. And that's something that we can do at any particular time, in any particular environment, right? And that's something that's a key component that we have for ourselves, that we can do for ourselves at any moment.
That's amazing. I like that. The elements of how does it bring me peace? I think we're starting to learn in our community is that peace, one, is essential. I started learning as I've gotten older, that I don't want to trade my peace for other things. Peace is essential for my life. And that's in every situation, every environment that I'm in. If it's not peaceful, then it's not for me. But it took me a while to get to that space. A lot of times, Black women, even Black men in general, because they didn't come from a peaceful environment, they've normalized the chaos. So they don't even understand that a peaceful environment breeds a successful environment, right? A peaceful environment breeds a successful environment. So they get frustrated because they're in a rut, or they're not motivated, or they're not feeling like they can get out of their situation because they don't have those elements. They don't have inspiration. They don't have a peaceful environment, and they're not motivated to do anything because of that. So I think that what you're saying is so key. Those elements are so key. But I think in our community, we have to often be reminded, it's good that we're having this conversation so that we can remind people that, yeah, it's okay that you have peace. Like, peace is also our birthright. Because we think our birthright is chaos.
Yes.
It's not. That's something that was created to hold us back. But I think that if we understood that peace was our birthright, then we would think twice about what our environment looks like and how we set up our environment.
And I love that you bring up that point, because I have a mentor that states that peace breeds prosperity, right? Peace breeds prosperity. And even from the point that you were saying that sometimes individuals can be so used to chaos that it becomes familiar to them, right? So that's how they identify. That's what they subconsciously believe that they deserve. So in actuality, we will start to act in self-sabotaging behaviors that will cause us to experience the chaos that we're familiar with, right? So with that scenario, if we did come from hectic home environments, if we did come from environments that didn't necessarily showcase the love that we deserved and desired, right? We need to really look at ourselves and look at the behaviors that we possibly could be the behaviors that we possibly could be utilizing in order to breed the chaos that we're currently experiencing.
Yeah.
Because on a subconscious level, we will cling to what is familiar to us. We will cling to what we identify with. And sometimes we will have different scenarios and different situations that could be very peaceful, but because we're so used to that toxic environment or atmosphere, we will do things subconsciously that will cause us to experience the chaos that we've been used to.
That's so true. And like, I'm glad we're touching on this right now, because I think it's relatable. Like, if let's talk about relationships, right? People don't realize what's familiar to them most times is a trauma bond. Right? A trauma from their childhood, a trauma from their young adulthood. And women, I want you to really, really pay attention to this. When you are dealing with whomever you're attracted to, what's familiar, you'll use the language like, oh, he seems so familiar. It's like, I've known him all my life. That is a clear indication that 9 times out of 10, you are trauma bonding with a person, because that person is familiar. They're using familiar language. They're doing things familiar to you, because if you grew up in a toxic environment and they start yelling and that's what you're used to, you're going to be attracted to somebody that yells most times, because that's what you're familiar with. Right? So what happens is you will get in a toxic relationship and stay in that toxic relationship because that's normal for you. Can we talk about that for a moment? Because I think a lot of times people stay in relationships way longer than they should. Dr. LaCar says, when Jesus has left the room, or when God has left the room, when the relationship is over. But you will stay in the relationship longer than you should because it's familiar to you.
In those particular scenarios, again, we need to have a pattern of interrupts, right?
A pattern of what?
A pattern of interrupts.
Okay, we need to explain what that is.
So basically, we need to have some type of factor in our environment that will allow us to see what we can't see, right? So that can be a therapist. That can be a life coach, right? So if we're used to an environment, so for example, let's say that I grew up eating chicken all the time, right? So I'm used to chicken, I'm used to grilled chicken, I'm used to barbecue chicken, I'm just used to chicken being the main component, right? And then I go to dinner one day with somebody and they're like, Amirica, I've noticed that every time we go out to dinner, like you're just eating the same thing. And I'm like, yeah, like that's what it is. But Amirica, like you have beef, you have vegetables, you have all these other elements. Why aren't you trying those? I never thought about it. It's what I'm familiar with. So that's what I eat, right? And I use that scenario to say that we need people in our lives that can kind of look at what we're going through from an outside perspective and say, hey, that's not normal. That's not normal to be in a relationship where you're being yelled at. It's not normal to be in a relationship with someone that is showcasing narcissistic behaviors. It's not normal, right? Because like the majority of the times, we identify with the relationships that we've had with our parents, right? So, for example, if you are an individual that you attract emotionally unavailable men, right? More than likely, you had a father that was very emotionally unavailable to you. He wasn't in your life, or maybe he abandoned you, right? So you're showcasing that in the individuals that you are choosing, right? Because relationships are a two-way street. Right? And if someone is interested in you, you have the ability to reject that interest, right? So if you're consistently dating the same type of person over and over and over again, then that's an indication that it's something in your energy that's attracting that, right? It's a trauma bond. It's something that needs to be healed so you can release that.
Right. And I think it's not only just relationships, but let's talk about career. People, you know, shout out to the Black Blonde who has joined us. She was our first speaker on our first season as well as our second season. And in this second season, she talked about healing Black joy through what you say, what you speak, right? And she's a masterful manifester. And she, even though she is a professor, she wants to live this nomadic lifestyle, right? So she loves to travel, and she had the ability to write out and script out things that she wanted to see in her life. And now she's traveling with her career. And I think because of that, she realized that she doesn't have to stay in an environment that is not conducive for her ability, her creativity, her expertise. She stepped out, on faith, and stepped out into some things because she knows her self-worth, and she understands that she doesn't have to be limited to this work environment that is not conducive for her and her expertise. She can take that out on the road, which she loves to do. She likes to travel. So I think people see it from a standpoint of, yeah, I might be in this toxic relationship at home, but they also mimic that in their career.
Yeah. How we do one thing is how we do everything.
Woo!
Again, how we do one thing is how we do everything. So if you grew up in a toxic environment, if that is what's familiar to you, then you will stay in toxic working environments because that's what you've been programmed to believe is normal, right? So even if you know that something is painful, even if you know that, I don't really feel good in this environment, I don't really feel, like, you will still stay. And more times than not, you can change positions, you can change companies, but you will meet the same types of people, right? Because it's embedded in your energy. Until you extract whatever is causing you to be attracted to those types of people, it doesn't matter where you go. You can move to a different city, you can move to a different state, you can move to a different planet, right? You will always attract the same types of people because that's what your soul is calling, right? There's an author. Her name is Marianne Williamson, and she has a book. It's called Return to Love. And she states that there are only two things that the human soul calls for. And there's only two reasons why we do things. And it's a call to love or a call to receive love, right? So if you are attracting people that are very toxic in your life, that means that there may be a point in time where we need to do an assessment of the areas in which we don't feel that we are worthy of love, and kind of really, really dig deep into that, do the soul work, right? Because ultimately, those people are there to teach you a lesson. They're there to show you what area you're lacking in, what you're not giving to yourself. Because people can only do to you what you are already doing to yourself, right? To a certain extent. So if you are attracting people that are mistreating you, you need to ask yourself, how am I mistreating myself? If you are people that aren't being truthful to you, how am I not being truthful to myself? If you are attracting people that aren't being committed to you, how am I not being committed to myself? And that can be as simple as you saying, I'm going to go to the gym Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you lay in bed, right? You're teaching yourself that you cannot commit to yourself. So why should anyone else commit to you?
This is so good, Amirica. This is so good. I got so many questions now, because what happens is a lot of times we will play the victim, and we will say, and I had this epiphany today at dinner. I was talking to my best friend and my daughter, and I watched a video today where a gentleman stated that women were groomed to speak from a place of emotion, right? So when they're talking, they say, if it's in a conversation, or if it's something that has come up and they're in an argument or they're in a disagreement, the first thing we will say is, well, I feel this. Instead of taking it in, assessing what's going on, and doing it from a non-emotional place, but from a factual place, right? And what you're talking about is a lot of times we'll say, well, that person was dishonest to me, or that person wasn't committed to me. Instead of taking the information and looking in the mirror and saying, well, what commitments did I not make with myself, right? That has taught them to be able to be freely with not being committed to me. But I don't think people in those moments have that question for themselves.
And this is so good, because here's the thing. At the end of the day, everything is a reflection of you, right? Every relationship, everything is a reflection of you.
Yeah.
One mentor that states that the world reacts in the manner that we feel about ourselves, right? So if you have a person that is winning in life, they're very successful, they're thriving. It's like they go from place to place. They're always successful. It's like they always hit the shot. They have an internal image of themselves as being that person, right? They believe they're worthy of being successful. They believe they're worthy of winning. They believe they're worthy of receiving accolades and kudos and praise, right? And if you have another person that is the complete opposite, right? Because I don't even like talking about that. But you have a person that's the complete opposite. They have a mental image of themselves that is depicting and being reflected back into their outer reality, because we live life from the inside out, right? Inside game. So you get out of life what you feel, right? On a base level, not even what you feel about yourself, what you are feeling, right? So if your dominant emotions are love, are happiness, are joy, is gratitude, you're going to get back that feedback in the form of your outer reality. So if you're having more lower level emotions, you're going to be drawing situations and scenarios that will cause you to feel more of that, right? Because I believe, in the research that I've done, showcases that, in essence, the universe responds to us with our emotions, right? So that's why our emotions are very critical and crucial, because our emotions are what dictates our lives, right? So it's very important that we continue to do emotional cleansing, right? And this is something that I teach my clients as well. We have to consistently do the emotional cleansing that is necessary, especially if we've experienced trauma in our lives, because we could be attracting different scenarios and not even know it, and not even know, like, you could say, you're a good person, like, I do nice things, right? But if at the core of you, if you don't feel worthy, you will never get what you truly want out of life.
That's key. And I'm glad you said that, because it brings up a point that we were discussing at dinner. And when I think about not your generation specifically, but let's say my generation, I'll be 49 on Saturday. So thank you. So 70s and 80s babies, we grew up in a generation where there was an emotional disconnect with our parents, because the generation that came before us, they were taught and groomed to not show their emotions out of survival. Because if they showed their emotions, they could be hung, they could be killed, they could be, kicked off of their job or whatever. And they were trying to provide for their family. That was their main goal, right? So what they did was rear children to be emotionally disconnected from their feelings. Like we grew up thinking, people are saying, hey, you need to have emotional intelligence. This is a big buzzword that's going on around now. Your EI's got to be, pristine, emotional intelligence. But you're dealing with a group of people that are not really in touch with their emotions and their feelings, because we were taught to not display our emotions and our feelings. So how do we get, when you say emotional cleansing, if you were talking to my age group, what does that look like? What does the emotional cleansing look like? Because we were reared in a time where emotions were not important. We're just now getting the language now in today's time where we can identify what those things are. And a lot of people are now, seeking therapy because that was very taboo in our community. Boundaries. We didn't know what boundaries were, growing up. That was taboo. So all of this language about emotions, boundaries, emotional cleansing, emotional intelligence, that's still kind of taboo for my generation. Okay. How do we bring people into that spectrum of having those conversations, understanding what emotional intelligence is, understanding what emotional cleansing is?
Again, from a baseline level, it's about doing the inner work of forgiveness for yourself, right? So forgiving your past, forgiving the things that you may have done that may have caused obstacles for you. Because here's the thing. We can't have emotional intelligence with other people if our own internal emotions are discombobulated, right? Because if we haven't done the emotional cleansing that we need to do, we'll look at different scenarios and how people are acting in our reality. And because our reality is filtered by our own emotions, we will take on somebody else's behavior and we will find offense with it, when in actuality, they meant the most pure intentions, right? But because we are so backed up with the trauma, with the hurt, with the pain, we can't see life clearly. We're living life through a filter, right? So when I say emotional cleansing, it's about getting down to the root, the deep roots of what we've experienced in life and what's truly holding us. Because it's interesting, because I recently had an epiphany. So I come from the belief that we are, and I don't want to get too metaphysical and everything else, but hey,
so go for it. We love it.
So we're at the core of who we are. We are not our bodies. We are not what we see. We're spirits. We're spirits that live in a body that possess a soul, right? That's what truly allows us to manifest. That is what truly allows us to have quantum leaps. It's when we go from flesh or from material to spirit, to the spiritual realm, right? So in essence, those negative emotions are what hold our spirit down, right? Or not even our spirit, who we are, because that's who we are at the core. It holds us down, right? So as we do the emotional cleansing, we get lighter and lighter and lighter. And that's why a lot of times when we do the emotional work, we'll find that it's easier for us to manifest. We'll find that it's easier for us to have a thought of what we desire and we'll get it, right? Because we're not bogged down by those emotions. So first and foremost, what I mean by doing the emotional work is truly doing the internal work of rooting out that unforgiveness, rooting out that pain, rooting out what happened to you in your childhood, rooting out the pain of your inner child, really, so that you can see your reality as it really is.
Yeah. That is what Heal Black Joy is. Honestly, what you just said, Heal Black Joy is about getting to healing everything that has stopped your Black joy. So whatever that is for a person of color, what your inner child is what shows up, because you're only as good as the things that you've healed. You're only as good as the things that you've healed, and your reaction to people and places and things and experiences is through the filter of the things that are unhealed. So that's what the whole foundation of what Heal Black Joy is built on. So I'm glad you said that, because this conversation is not even though it's been 3 different people that I've talked to in 3 different weeks, you all have been saying the same thing. So I knew I was hitting a bullseye on this conversation, because I want people to understand that if you're going to heal your joy, it's got to be about what you're thinking. It's got to be about what you're speaking out of your mouth. And it's got to be about the environment that you cultivate. Because in order for you to really, truly manifest, get to that manifested life that you want and desire, those elements have to be there. The things that you talked about, having peace, inspiration, motivation, having those key people in your life, your support, your cheerleader, your coach, your colleague, and what's the other one?
Your friend.
Your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, when all of those elements come together, what does one's life look like?
It looks magical. It looks magical when you have peace, when you have inspiration, when you have motivation, when you have those people that are lifting you up and you're doing the exact same thing for them. When you have that coach that's pushing you to get uncomfortable so that you can become your greatest version. When you have those peers that are in there with you in the mastermind, that are talking to you, that are sharpening you and you're sharpening them because iron sharpens iron, right?
Right.
And you have friends that you can go to and just relax and be like, girl, you remember when we were like in college and we did all of just having those memories, right? It evokes in you the desire to want to progress and to want to move forward and to want to be your very best because you have strategically cultivated an environment where you can blossom, where you can grow, where you can bloom, right? Because you have been intentional about the different things and elements that are in your life, so much so that now you're automatically rising because you have set the anchors in place for you to do so.
You're speaking the best language, Amirica. And it's so crazy. It's reminding me of what the Limitless lady stated last week. And she did an analogy of a plant, like if you're watering a plant. Nothing can be conducive for that plant if it's, dry and it doesn't have water and it's not getting sunlight and it's just in an environment that is not conducive for growth, right? And she talked about that last week, and you just explained it another way, having those people around you to support you, to cheer you on, to coach you through some things, and the friend that you can actually express and let your hair down with, and also having that environment where it's peaceful, you're inspired, and you have that motivation. You can truly be successful and live that fully manifested life. And I'm just happy to have had this conversation with you because I know that you do the research and you can give us tangible examples of what it looks like from the standpoint of not being in the right environment and the standpoint of being in the right environment. So for you, the mindset coach, what are you working on, ma'am?
Well, I'm working on my new 8-week one-to-one accountability program. It's called Mindset Reinvention. So in this 8-week program, we actually go over a lot of things that I spoke about really analyzing our thought patterns, isolating the thought patterns and the behaviors that are truly holding us back so that we can truly move forward and start to take action, the correct action in our businesses. Because here's the thing. A lot of times we can get very comfortable with the life that we live, right? Especially like working in corporate America, we can be very happy with what we're doing.
Yeah.
But there comes a time where we truly want to seek out something more, right? We want to share with the world what we have learned. We want to share with the world our experiences in the form of being a coach or a consultant, right? But we will find that even though we want this, we're not taking the appropriate steps or the appropriate actions to do so. And whenever we're not in alignment, whenever we're saying that we want something but we're not taking the appropriate steps, that means that there's a mental block somewhere that's stopping us, right? Because if we truly wanted it, then we would go after it, right? So that means that our mental picture is off. The way that we see ourselves, our self-image isn't in alignment with what we say that we want. So basically in my 8-week program, we go through those elements and we look at the mental blocks and we come up with a customized plan in order to move my clients forward so that they can take the appropriate steps and the appropriate actions and also work on themselves and do that internal forgiveness work so that they can become their best versions and show up as that while they're doing the work to grow their business.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Tell Heal Black Joy where we can find you on social media.
You can find me primarily on Instagram at Amirica the Mindset Coach. I am working on TikTok and possibly LinkedIn, but for right now, I am primarily on Instagram.
Okay. And your podcast, what days are you doing your podcast, and how can we, download your shows right now?
Well, my podcast is called the Elevate Your Identity Podcast. I'm so excited. I'm so excited about it. Thank you for bringing that up because with my podcast, I really interview individuals, and I also have other individual talking segments with myself where we really look at the internal work that's necessary in order to make an identity shift so that we can become the people that we need to become in order to be successful. Because here's the thing, and this is something that I've been hearing over and over and over again in my own communities and something that I've been studying. So success is not a matter of getting. Success is a matter of becoming, right? When you become the person that is worthy of the success that you desire, you will get that success. I don't care where you are in life. I don't care what circumstance you're in. If you can align yourself with that identity, align yourself with that mindset, align yourself with that vibrational frequency, what you want has to come to you.
Right.
Period. Right? Yes. So with my podcast, I really it really just goes into that internal work, that identity shifting work, and I look forward to interviewing more people that have had quantum leaps in their lives. Like, for example, one person that I'm looking to interview, he stated that last year he was homeless and now he's making six figures. That doesn't happen by coincidence.
Right.
That happens by doing internal mindset work, right? So with my podcast, I drop new episodes on Wednesday, so we are on a hiatus, but you can find me at Amirica Nicholson on YouTube. And you can find different segments of my podcast on there as well.
And that's America with an I, you guys, not like America, the United States of America. It's an I. Right. I know you just mentioned quantum leaping, and we gotta do another conversation about just that in general. But for those Heal Black Joy Tribe members that don't know what quantum leaping is, can you kind of explain what that is so that they'll understand it a little bit more?
Absolutely. So there are different ways of explaining it. So a quantum leap is essentially experiencing a miracle in your life. It's the fact of you going from point A to point Z and not even knowing how you did it, right? But in essence, the way that you did it was you hacked into your vibrational frequency. You shifted and you attuned your frequency to what you wanted, and it caused you to experience that.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. So for me. So a few years ago, I had a particular car, and I was like, God, I want a new car. I want a particular car. I want a new car. I don't know how I'm going to get it, but I want a new car. This was years ago. So I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it, right? But I did the internal work, the same internal work that I teach in my 8-week program. And what happened was the car that I had broke down, right? It broke completely down.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm not bothered by this. None of these things move me. This is going to work out. This is going to work out for my good. God, I don't know what you're doing, but I know this is going to work out, right? So the idea popped into my head to call a car dealership, right? Because I was looking at I didn't call them. I was looking at a car on the internet, right? And I put in my number just so they could give me a call. And as soon as I did that, I completely forgot. And like maybe an hour later, they called me and they were like, we saw that you were looking at this car. If you tell us, I know that you're interested in it. If you tell us what you have, what you can work with, and we'll look to see if we can get it for you. So I told them the money that I had to put down, and they ran my credit and everything else. And they were like, you know what, you've been approved for this car, right? So literally in a matter of maybe, I would say maybe like 5 days, I went from having a car that I completely hated to having a brand new car, right? And putting little to no money down.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I mean by quantum leap. It's something that you have you don't even know how you're going to do it, but because you have the belief and you have the desire, that is what allows you to experience it. I'll give you one more example. So when I was in the financial services field, it was when I first started, and I was still trying to get sales. Like I was still trying to get how sales worked. And because I was in a negative mindset, I was getting customers they just weren't sticking. They didn't want the accounts. They didn't want it, right? So I did the internal forgiveness work, and I started to actively work on my ability to manifest, right? And in a matter of 3 days, I kid you not, I went from being at the very bottom of my sales title to being at the very top, having the number one title in my region, getting letters from the VP of the bank, right? Because I did the internal work. It's possible. Whoever is watching this, I don't care what situation you're in, I don't care what scenario you're in. There are people that have millions and millions and millions of dollars right now that know this information, and it's time that you knew it as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know how to thank you. I'm so grateful to share this platform with you, because I think you are just one of the most brilliant individuals, brilliant woman, brilliant, woman of color that I've encountered and come across. I've always thoroughly enjoyed your expertise, what you bring to our conversations. I think that you not only just walk the walk, but you talk the talk, and you do the research behind what you're saying. And I think that's super duper important. So I thank you for being available tonight. I love the fact that we can do this live.
I love your spirit. I love everything that you're doing. I was watching the last live that you had with the Limitless Lady, and literally it just felt like I was just on a live with girlfriends. The comfort, the relatability. Like, you bring an energy that needs to be brought to this platform. So thank you for what you do.
Oh man, thank you for that. I strive to bring that warmth to the conversation. I want to be able to have the conversations with people that I enjoy, that I know what they're talking about, but not only know what they're talking about, but make it relatable to our audiences. You know what I mean? And I think because we're making it relatable to the audiences, it resonates with our audiences. I cannot tell you how many times somebody has DM'd me and said, Lola, I wasn't on the live, but I went back and I watched, Amirica talk about mindset, and now I'm, geared into what I'm supposed to be doing this year. So, and I know that's going to happen again tonight. I'm going to start getting, DMs telling me that what you've said resonated with them. So thank you again for just being available for tonight. And thank you for sharing your expertise with us. You guys go follow Amirica right now. Amirica, the mindset coach. Look into our post that has her social media, her IG on there. Go follow her right now. Tune into her 8-week program. If you're trying to change your mindset and you're trying to shift to become better and become successful, please support her in her endeavors of doing her program. And thank you guys for tuning in, as always, to the Heal Black Joy podcast. We will be with you on next week. I appreciate you guys tuning in and being fully engaged. Y'all have a good night.
Good night. Thank you.